I've purposely chosen this image here because we're very familiar with this in the city centre and we kind of take it for granted. But I'd like to ask, why should you or I have to stop every 100 metres at a pedestrian crossing so that cars can move freely through the city? Behaviour change is essentially about people, and it's about how we want to configure the places in which we live and the priority that we want to give to people and cars within that. Behaviour change, I've been working in behaviour change for approximately 7 years in relation to transport. And it works at the individual level, the destination level, or the wider community level. And we use a tool that's called a travel plan, which is essentially a package of measures that are designed to reduce the barriers to sustainable transport use and increase the barriers to car usage. Initially, there's a lot of resistance, a lot of objection, but over time, you build momentum and then it becomes a snowball effect. On average, you'll get between 10 and 25% change at a particular site, depending on the location, and you won't change everybody because not everybody can and not everybody will. So you're looking at the percentage who can. So what kind of reasons do we try to use that will invoke or resonate with users? Well, one of them is time, and there's a common perception that it's quicker to go anywhere by car. But we heard from Marius this morning, it took him an hour and a half to get here from Dundrum across the city. So the car is not always the fastest. And a key point is that time spent on public transport is productive time, where you can prepare for work, listen to music, sleep if you like. If you take the car into town, it's increasingly a liability these days. You have to find somewhere to park. And if you go for a drink after work, you've got a problem because you can't drive home. Money is an issue. The AA estimates that it costs €12,000 per year to run a typical family car. A public transport ticket is about €1,000, and in Ireland we have a tax-deductible incentive that means it only costs €500 on average per year to use public transport. There's the obvious health issues that if you integrate a walk as part of your daily commute, it's good for you, it's good exercise, it relieves stress, it's good for the soul, you see more as you walk around, so why pay for a gym? And then we ask, do you want to arrive at a destination that looks like this or looks like this? So in this scenario, we have a car parked at a workplace for 8 hours in the day, stationary. That's a very inefficient use of space in the urban environment. On average, our cars are stationary for 23 out of 24 hours a day. So what is the smartest choice? If everybody in the morning gets into their car and says, oh, I'll just hop into town, we get this. Everybody else thinks that somebody else will leave the car at home. And in Ireland, between 1998 and 2008, we had a 22% population increase, but we had a doubling in car ownership. So we now have nearly 2 million cars, 1.9 million cars, 4.4 million people. That's practically one car for every 2 people in the country. And it's worse in other places like the US. And in that time, engine size also increased. And we know what they say about a man and his engine size. Then at the level of the destination, there's other barriers that are very often invisible but are very important: policy, information, and physical barriers. So if you think about where you work, what's the business travel policy? And you'll find that very often car mileage is given, and the rate is higher than cycle mileage. So the incentive is given to drive. You'll get free parking as well. KPMG addressed this by giving, it was about €2,000, €3,000 as a cash incentive package to their qualifying employees. And they offered the option to their employees to buy back the car parking space, which previously they just gave gratis, or to allow them to keep the change. So that put a real price on the parking space in the middle of town. There's informational barriers as well. Think about where you work or a destination that you go to for the first time. You go to their website. what do you find? In the main, you find a map and car directions on how to get there. And there won't be appropriate information about how to get there by public transport. And if there is, it's minimal, and it doesn't show you what you do when you get to the bus stop and how to get to the site. So there's poor pedestrian information, which gives you a bad experience and gives status to car driving. Equally, at many destinations, the car parking is positioned nearest the entrance. So, if you arrive as a pedestrian, you have to walk across the car park. So again, status given to car driving. The parking for cycling is down some alleyway at the back of the building. I came here today from the Ballymun Road, which is the main artery in and out of town, and it has a quality bus corridor. And as I walked in through the pedestrian entrance to come here, I didn't find a single sign about how to get to the Helix. So it's a minor point, but if I was late and didn't know where I was going, it's a stress for me and a bad experience, which maybe makes me think the next time I will use the car. The signage for the car is very good. Now, I don't want to put down DCU because actually their website is very good. It actually lists all the modes, sustainable modes to get here, and it puts them first. The Helix, as a destination, actually puts the car first and the other modes after, but it's a minor point. There's several then external costs to transport, and the obvious one is the environment, and we hear so much about emissions, and we've heard many statistics today. But did you know that 99% of the energy use of a car goes towards moving the metal, the car chassis itself, and 1% to move the person? We have lots of other anomalies in our system. Why do we bring apples from New Zealand, for instance? If someone came down from space, I think they would think, that's pretty insane. What are we doing here? And a very often overlooked externality is civic space. Imagine if we walked around the city wearing this contraption every day. Well, that's what we do with cars. Now, in the context of the evolution of transport, the car is a recent phenomenon, the last 100 years. Planning began to be really affected by the car agenda in the 1950s, 1960s. And then we saw a change in urban planning to accommodate the car, which has had a detrimental effect on our landscapes and our urban environment. Now, if you think about where you'd like to go on your holidays and a nice place to be, you're likely to think about a space like this, which was planned before the car. Our global population is increasing in our cities. By 2050, we'll have 84% of the world's population living in cities. So not only may we not have enough space for people, but we certainly won't have enough space for cars. And in China, up until recently, there was a cycling culture. That's moving now towards car use as well, like we are in the rest of the world. And it's currently only at 4% penetration for car use. In the G7, it's 70%. So what's going to happen when all of these people also get cars? Now, the purpose of cities is for maximum exchange and minimal travel. And I think that there is a limit to growth within cities, that there's a neighbourhood scale, there's a human scale that should be retained. When we come out of our houses, we should be able to walk to the most essential local services that we need, the doctor, the school, and the shop, and so on. But if we give permission to the likes of Woodies and Tesco's to locate outside our villages and towns, well, what are we going to do? Instead, we're going to come out of our house and get into our car, drive to Tesco, and we're not going to see or talk to anybody on the way. So it actually destroys communities as well. When you increasingly want to give space to cars in the city, this is what happens. You move from the left to the right, where more and more space is given to accommodate the movement of cars, and more space. And consequently, you give less space and movement for people. And this is done under the guise of fighting congestion. This is an aerial view of Houston in Texas, showing the amount of space dedicated to car parking, a shocking 64.7%. Closer to home, outside here on the Ballymun Road, you can see how we have 2 lanes of traffic assigned for cars. We have another lane over on the far left near the pathway, which is a parking bay. So that's 3 to 1 between the car and the bus, which is also shared with a cycle lane. So what needs to change? Well, we need to become more customer-centric. And we need to invert the hierarchy of use towards pedestrian first and cars last. And this needs to apply at every level, at a policy level, at an investment level, and at a design level at the urban infrastructure level. We need to accommodate new business models. I don't know if you're familiar with Zipcar or GoCar, which is here in Dublin, which allows you to use a car without the need to own a car. Maybe we need to change the paradigm, and instead of 1,000 people on a daily basis getting in their cars and going to Tesco, maybe the groceries we need should come to us. So maybe we need to relook at the milkman. Teleworking, 1 day a week, would reduce our usage by 20% straight off. We need more radical innovation. This space here on the left used to be a car parking bay, and now sorry for the voice. Now it's a cafe terrace for people, and it's good for business as well. This is a similar example, an experiment we did down at the bottom of Mary Street to pedestrianize a portion of the street. The traders loved it, the citizens loved it. This is Broadway in New York before it was pedestrianized and after. We need more intelligence in the transport infrastructure rather than building roads, more and more roads to accommodate more cars, which will eventually become a car park. We need to adhere to this principle that's enshrined in the EU Treaty Article 5 for decisions to be made as closely as possible to the citizen. Now, when's the last time someone asked you if you minded a 2-lane road being built outside your house? So, finally, I'd like to say, if you plan for cars and traffic, that's what you get. But if you plan for people and places, you get people and you get places. So I'm saying we need to question our relationship with the car. I have a car myself, I'm not anti-car, but it's a little bit like your mother-in-law. You want to have a good relationship with her, but the day she begins to command your life, it's the only woman in your life, you've got a problem. Thank you.